They had sat down on the flat section of grass with a rather lovely view to discuss what might best be left unsaid in the keep. Baron had caught up just as they came into land, Jarix standing proudly, clearly expecting praise.
Congratulations, kid. You outmaneuvered a laden trader within only just over a minute. Well done.
The old warhorse sounded surprisingly sarcastic. Jarix's face practically screamed, "Come on!"
No offense to you, Archon.
None taken, the trader replied, looking at Jarix with a smirk. I still did it. He didn't even get close to me.
Good, he shouldn't. Now, why did I need to come out here?
That was Tom's cue. Right, first of all, Jarix made a decision? Yes, I'll do it.
You get to be another teacher for me, and you have to serve as part of my crew in exchange.
He even cocked his head again, clearly proud of himself. You sly little bugger, it ain't gonna be that easy. I'm not Royal Guard, and I don't think I ever will be, so I'm not sure that is even possible, but for as long as you're here, I would rather fight from your back than trying to hang on to Jackalope again, that's for sure. Jarix looked a little miffed about that, but what could Tom do, really? Besides, as awesome as professional Dragon Rider sounded, he had shit to do. With some finesse, it might be possible to get the best of both worlds, though.
So, what?
Jarix started. I'm technically sworn to the Keep and the Nook, I think. Yeah, that sounds about right. So as long as you stay here, it's all good. You need to know, though, I do a lot more than just play soldier all day. Can you read and write?
I can read, yes.
Jarix held up a foreleg.
Writing is a bit of a problem. They can, though,
he continued, gesturing towards Zarka and Redexia with his head. Right, I see. Tom scratched the back of his head. Really should have seen that one coming. What was your routine before coming here? You know, everyday stuff.
I would eat, sleep, train, relax, and that's about it.
Not a bad life, Tom thought to himself. Living in luxury, I see. Well, I take care of the kids, experiment with dangerous substances, design the machines this world has never seen, and some no world has ever seen. I hunt for food, I clean, I stand guard, I teach math, science, English and history, and now I also need to teach you, not to mention I do like having a bit of fun every now and again. Do you see the problem?
Do you sleep or eat?
Jarix questioned, sounding genuinely curious. Oh, sorry, yes, of course. Only sleep 6 hours a day, though I would like to make that 8 once in a while. The girls have been bugging me for a while on that front.
I like 12, though I can go a few days without, just need to catch up later.
That's handy. But anyway, as you can hear, my day isn't really long enough to do all that, so I might need a little help. Jarix tilted his head, as Redexia and Zarko looked at each other nervously.
Don't tell me I have to work too,
Jarix questioned in a disheartened voice. Oh yeah, you do. In fact, that too will be an important lesson.
How do you get better at fighting from what do you want me to do?
He turned to his father instead.
Dad, what kind of work can I do out here? I want you to help make this a home for you. Homes can't be bought, they must be made.
Sure, you can buy a home. The keep would be very expensive, but... Tom held up a finger to stop him. That's a house, very different. A home is where you belong, so tell me, where do you belong?
I lived the last 40 years at the training fields.
Sorry, stupid question. How old are you? Tom really should have gotten that out of the way earlier.
85, why?
Tom turned for a head tilt as he looked at Archon.
386 and going strong.
A blue dragon usually lives into their 600s, Volson added. Fucking cheaters, Tom said with a smile, shaking his head.
Oh come now, 150 ain't so bad,
Archon went in an apologetic tone. It wasn't like he could do anything about it. Try again with 90, though 80 is more likely.
Oh,
Archon responded.
How old are you then?
Jarix tried. 37, so a long way to go.
My latest teacher, the Master of Death, is 37?
Jarix replied in disbelief.
I was small enough to ride on your back then, he said, looking at Archon. If a bit on the heavy side, but yeah, just about. Your father ain't no slouch when it comes to carrying things about, after all.
Well, it was good to see some happiness in the little family, at least. Yesterday had been rather depressing. Do you know how big you are, as in how heavy? Tom asked. He genuinely had no idea. It wasn't like he had a set of scales big enough.
8 tons,
Jarix replied with pride.
Slow down there, Junior. I clocked in at 19 at the last weigh-in.
Volson walked over, whispering into Tom's ear. That's a mark of pride. Bigger is better, of course, as long as you ain't fat, obviously. A fat dragon, now that would be a sight. Tom pictured a round Jarix struggling to get off the ground and snickered a bit.
36,
came the prideful reply from Baron, clearly extremely pleased with himself. He wasn't much longer than Narchon. He did have a bit more wingspan, though, it seemed. He was a little wider, built tough, but really another Jarix just in muscle and thicker bones. Fuck.
What's the matter? You got something bigger where you're from?
Jarix asked with a slight chip on his shoulder. Not that's alive, Tom shrugged, palms upwards. Our biggest planes, though, are like 280 tons empty and they can carry over 350 tons.
You're joking.
Archon went with disbelief, and Baron looked like somebody had just taken a shit on his parade. That whole situation took a bit before they managed to get back on track. Sometimes he should just shut up, Tom thought to himself. The idea of a cargo plane being refitted as a personal dragon transport was hilarious, though. Yes, I know you want one to try being carried again, and no, I can't just make one. Now, where were we? Right, Jarix. I'm going to need you to help out where you can around here. Not just to save me what time you can, but because, as I said, you need to know what's worth fighting for.
How does working help with that?
He asked, clearly not comprehending. Yesterday you were talking about fighting for the good cause. Because the more you work on something, the more you care about it. If you had two beds, one you just so happened to find, and one you spent ages making yourself, which one would you be most upset if I set fire to?
I'm not a kid, Tom. The one I made, obviously.
Right, okay, maybe that had been a bit too on the nose. Tom honestly hadn't known what answer to expect from that one. Sorry, but the principle stands. The more time you spend working on the keep, and with the ones who call it home, the more you are going to care about it. It will become a true home. Jarix looked a bit indignant at that, cocking his head.
So what? I go hunting with them sometimes, and...
We always have things that need carrying, and that amount is likely to increase in the future. Raoul and Wiperna could likely use a hand too.
And they are?
Farmers, Jarix. I want you to help them with farming as well.
You want a dragon of the Royal Guard to haul logs and plough fields?
Baron had finally interrupted, clearly not believing what he was hearing.
We were promised shelter and all necessities in exchange for risking our lives for your keep, should it come to it.
Zarko joined in. She and Redexter clearly were not pleased either. And you will get them, but if you want me to teach Jarix as well, then he and his crew, Tom looked very pointedly at Zarko and Redexi, go for all my lessons. This one covers humility, companionship, teamwork, and the art of making a true home. Come on, you're a fucking dragon, Jarix. It's going to be easy. It's also a great way to get everyone to like you in a hurry, because I'm going to let you in on a secret. Tom looked from side to side as if to check no one was there. No one likes hard work. They love having fun and relaxing, and doing interesting things.
He's a warrior dragon trained for combat over decades, and I'm not doing field work, no way.
Zarko protested.
No real guard should ever do so. We have more important things to do.
I do field work. Not sure if I'm important, though, but I am fairly sure he gets to decide what you end up doing. Tom went pointing to Jarix, who was clearly in deep thought.
This sounds more like you want a beast of burden to do all your shit jobs.
Jarix finally went, having pondered the strange proposition of having to do manual labour. Well, otherwise I have to do it, but remember what I'm spending my time on. Do you want that machine gun or not? That definitely got the young dragon's attention. It nearly looked like he was going to spin around on the spot, his head coming down in front of Tom.
I'll do it, but only if you promise you'll make me one.
Sure, if you pass I'll be happy too. Do keep in mind I need time and materials for that, and the ammunition of course. I'm guessing you're going to want a lot of that too.
I'm not poor,
Jarix just replied, seeming very cocksure. Neither is my dad.
Hey, you aren't going to be spending my money on whatever a machine gun is. Volson, what is a machine gun?
The thing I told you about this morning, Jarix interrupted before Volson got the chance to answer. It's like any weapon I've ever seen. The humans had dozens of them.
Well, it can't be that expensive then.
Well, Tom had managed to humble the dragonette, so going for 2. You said you aren't poor. Do you receive wages? He questioned, looking at Jarix.
Of course, on deployment. I'm paid even more.
That made sense, much like home, Tom thought. I think I'm supposed to get 200 gold for this tour, not to mention I don't have to pay for anything. Jarix looked at the colonel, who just nodded, clearly content to watch the exchange.
I'm only supposed to stay until late autumn, after all. Don't want to get stuck here during winter.
Tom had a feeling this might turn into a longer deployment than he was expecting. Still, that was plenty of time to work with. Not bad. I made around 1,000 back home in a year. Volson spat out some water from a flask he had produced from under his coat. What did you do? Volson questioned. Engineer, not even a very well paid one. Still doesn't really matter here though. I can't exactly find a bank for my home around here. Actually, if we use that bottle I sold you as an exchange rate rather than gold, I made like 25,000. Tom laughed a bit. Back home the thing cost like 15 silver. But you said it was exquisite. I sold that to a noble. Volson went, sounding a tad desperate at what would happen when that one was uncorked. Relax. That bottle is likely the finest in the kingdom. We make a lot more than good flying machines. Our alcohol is excellent too. Thanks to the cloak though. Out of curiosity, what did you sell it for? 125 gold, Volson admitted, looking a bit ashamed. Ha! I knew it. By that exchange rate I made over 40,000 gold a year back home. Oh, the look on their faces. And yes, I did field work back home too. He went looking at Zarko. I babysit, I plough the field, and clean the workshop when I'm done. I do the dirty work as does any self-respecting individual. Tom held up the authoritative finger as he looked at the three of them. And you will too. That means all you three put in the effort to earn a place here like I have done. Zarko and Redexi just looked at Jarix, who lowered his head all the way down again, looking right at Tom like a cat with a toy. He was close enough to pet, in fact. Mustn't pull a hiccup, mustn't pull a hiccup, Tom thought to himself. You are the strangest thing I have ever met, and quite possibly crazy. You don't have to do a thing, and yet you toil like you don't know if there will be food on the table tonight. I'll do it, but I want the machine gun, and ammunition for it. Deal. This should be interesting, Tom concluded to himself. Like he was going to start with a machine gun anyway. Always useful to keep some cards in your hand, though. Out of curiosity, would you be willing to sell one of these things? Baron asked. Ashore looking up with a bemused expression. No, they are not for sale. They must be earned. Tom replied, putting his fist into his hips. Remember yesterday's lesson? Earned? Well, kid, looks like you got a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity here. Baron relented. He didn't seem too upset. Tom guessed he had thought it was worth a try. No, you may not take his books back to the capital. They can't read them either. No one even speaks English around here, let alone reads it. Stupid girl, don't you know that may be accomplished with magic? Stupid girl. Girl! God damn it, I hate you. Sapphire fumed to herself, doing her best to kill the lady by looking at her. You still aren't allowed to steal his things, Esmeralda added in. It is evident, so of course I may take them. Sorry, ma'am, you can't do that, Lattori added, having replaced Maiko following an emotional outburst while going through the food supplies. Thanks, buddy, Sapphire thought to herself. You little... Why are you siding with traitors? I am impartial, that is why we are here, Lady Flaxen. Sapphire wondered why Lattori hadn't been given this position from the start. She seemed to have perfected the art of not giving a shit. Kalinki had claimed it had to do with her being a former escort to a noble family. Sapphire wondered if that meant all nobles were insufferable pricks. The Nook and a Puma weren't, though. Ugh. And I assume that if I ask you, Sergeant, you're going to reply that these have all been searched? They have indeed, Kaliki responded for at least the 10th time today. It's almost like you're wrong, Sapphire added with a cocky edge to her tone. I will have you all painted as traitors, all of you. The sergeant sighed, stepping forward. I think we are going to have to conclude your little investigation. You clearly aren't interested in the truth. You just want revenge where none is warranted. Not warranted! They killed my Dashu! He was your cousin, ma'am. He was hardly yours in that respect. Wasn't his father your mother's little brother or something? Goliki replied in a tired voice. Oh! Esmeralda went, looking as if she had finally cracked a puzzle. You think murder is funny, Huntress? The lady snapped at her. No, I think incest is, Esmeralda just replied in a perfectly calm voice. Sapphire damn near got some spittle down the wrong throat of that. Oh, Essie, you absolute beauty. There was a bit of awkward silence before Lady Flaxen got her shit together following that accusation. I would never do such a vile thing, she replied surprisingly calmly considering her previous behaviour. Sapphire agreed with her on that last part of that sentence too. That was truly a vile thing to do. Of course you would. Such a young, sprightly fellow, yet so weak of spine. Ripe for wrapping around your finger. Esmeralda continued, pacing around the lady like a predator. Good looking, too. I wouldn't claim that is true of you, though. I'm guessing that is why you wear a robe a bit too loose for you. That and you are well past your prime. You do seem to have a lot of money, though. Anyone here know what a trader escort makes these days? She went looking around at the others. First you accuse me of sleeping with a cousin, and then you call me an ugly old bag. Do you have a death wish, Huntress? The temporary calmness was certainly gone now. Don't know, 25 to 50 gold a year. Maybe they do get most of their meals and shelter paid for after all. Latore replied, still perfectly calm. Kalinka was clearly in a state of disbelief at what he was saying. Esmeralda had no place challenging a noble like this. Then how come he had such a fine blade after only a few years of service? That thing looked expensive. It's in the armory if you want to have a look at it. I'm guessing that was a gift of some kind. A gift from his useless father, yes. I think we need to find Tyborg. I want to know more about this useless father who could afford a blade like that. Sapphire had the evilest grin on her face at the panicked face on the lady in front of her. Sapphire didn't believe a word of what she had said so far. Esmeralda, though, had one hell of a knack for things like this. We are going for these heretical books, not meandering about. Now what is this one about? She went. Like they were going to let her off the hook that easily. Lady Flaxton, we require that you follow us, Kalinki replied in a calm but firm voice, gesturing towards the door. Fine. I shall indulge your weird fantasies about me and my cousin. I'm not done with those books, though. You lot follow along, she ordered to her entourage. That's right, bitch. Your turn to come under scrutiny. They made their way to the Dragon-Free greeting hall, finding Tyborg in the middle of running his new escort through some basic drills. They had suffered rather heavily last time, so there were a few new faces that needed to be worked in. Captain, I require a moment of your time, Esmeralda went in her most flamboyant voice as soon as she rounded the corner.
Right, you lot, go do something useful. Far away, Esmeralda, he replied, walking over to meet her.
What do you know of Dashu's father?
Never met the guy, seemed like a right prick, though. The kid sometimes told a less than perfect childhood, you know.
I see. What about Dashu's sword? Was that a gift from his father?
Hell no. He said it was from his extended family. Never wanted to talk about that, though. Must be nice people to give away a blade like that.
Maybe not. Lady Flaxton, why are you lying?
Are you insinuating I gave away a blade like that to a cousin? Gods, I need a drink for that one.
The lady produced a small, very fine-looking flask and downed it. She even drinks pathetically, Sapphire mused to herself. That was likely the finest of liquor, and her face still contorted like it was some cheap crap. You drag a squad of veterans and a legendary dragon out here to investigate his death. Yes, you did, Sapphire stated.
You? Why would you give him that?
Tyborg questioned, clearly confused. Because they were fucking, Esmeralda replied, loud enough to make sure everyone heard it.
You little!
The lady went lunging forward, trying to grab Esmeralda, who for her part didn't resist letting the lady knock her to the ground, clearly playing along. Kalinki and Latore moved over to the two of them, taking their sweet time about it. Esmeralda, who was by now just holding up her arms to shield her face with a random assortment of punches, giggled. No, stop, you're hurting me. Esmeralda went taunting her, adding further insult to the lady's already ruined honor. Sapphire did her best not to outright laugh. Well, that certainly did it, she thought to herself. Lady Flaxton, I'm going to have to ask you to restrain yourself, Latore went, sounding like he was talking to a couple of fighting children.
I'll rip your fucking horns off,
the lady screamed as she thrashed at Esmeralda. By the gods, you're pathetic. Have you never fought in your life? Esmeralda continued to taunt. The lady pulled back a bit, reaching for her waist. Then Esmeralda stiffened. Essie! Sapphire screamed out. You just stabbed Essie, you fucking piece of filth! I'll kill you! Sapphire went drawing her knife. Kalinki and Latore ripped the lady off Esmeralda, revealing a short blade stuck in her gut. Perhaps lucky enough for Sapphire, Tyborg managed to get in the way of her revenge.
Now, no need for that. Calm down now. Let's tend to her first.
Faced with fighting her way to the bitch or helping Esmeralda, Sapphire chose the latter, dropping the blade. You're gonna be just fine. Where the fuck is the Nook? Sapphire went, kneeling down beside Esmeralda. Out with the others, one of Volson's escorts replied. God damn it, where's Unkai then? Why don't you just stand there? Find him! Every one of the escorts just scurried off in a big hurry at that. Right then, apply pressure and leave the blade in. How bad is it? Esmeralda asked in a pained voice. Oh, it's hardly a proper wound, Sapphire assured her, fingers already covered in blood. Still, this wasn't anything they couldn't handle. Now where the fuck was Unkai?